Alright, man, peace. So, brothers, I'm on record as stating that I admire Kyrie Irving's phenomenal offensive skill on the basketball court. And when he decided to force a trade from the Cleveland Cavaliers a couple of years ago, I was very supportive of his move because I believed that he was searching for a higher understanding of who he could be as a person. And I never, ever try to stop someone or besmirch their potential. I believe that you can go wherever you feel like you can go, but you have to do it within bounds and within reason and with an understanding of how to get there. Sometimes we have to listen more than we speak. And Kyrie is starting to come off to me as someone who thinks that he knows things that he does not know. And that's what's truly stopping him from becoming the player and the leader that he purports to want to be. So now he's come out and stated that he does not believe that the media has the right to speak on his quote-unquote body of work, and he aligns it with LeBron James and Kevin Durant. And no disrespect to the brother, that's part of the reason why his teammates seem to be out on him, because they want him to understand that they respect him as a basketball player, but they're all on this journey together. And Kyrie has never done anywhere near the exploits of a Kevin Durant or a LeBron James over the course of the regular season. LeBron James is a 4-time regular season MVP. He's a 3-time NBA Finals MVP. People forget sometimes that Kevin Durant has also won a regular season NBA MVP award. He's won 4 or 5 scoring titles. Kyrie's never come close to anything like that. And I believe that that's part of the divide. You know, when you get control, people who are able to attain a certain level of control that acts as a revealer of who they really are. And I always say when I watch many of these point guards in the NBA today, these alleged point guards, they really take too much advantage of the fact that they bring the basketball up and they initiate the offense. Because really, as the point guard, you're the leader. And the first thing that a leader has to show is a sense of sacrifice. When he's concerned with making sure that his teammates are getting off and that they're getting their touches, that makes them feel more invested in the game. And now your teammates don't mind if every once in a while you take 20 or 25 shots or you take the game over down the stretch, because they know that you're concerned about their welfare. You're concerned about their input, not only verbally, but also over the course of the game, how many shots they get. When they run fast breaks, you're looking for them to get easy layups. You're setting them up for easy baskets, etc. And I just don't see that from Kyrie. I think that you either have to be a player who's going to score on a very proficient level like a Steph Curry, or you have to be a point guard who passes more and make sure that your teammates get involved, similar to a Chris Paul. And I think that Kyrie's in that middle area, and that can cause problems with his teammates. I think that Dame Lillard sometimes also has those same problems. I just think that Dame is a better leader than Kyrie is at this point in his life. I think that Kyrie talks a little bit too much, and sometimes he can be hampered by his intellect. But there's a difference between intellect and knowledge. I think that Kyrie has high intellect, but I think that he has a very low knowledge base. And it makes him look silly and delusional sometimes. So anyway, they're going to talk about it, and I'm going to chime in.
I get tired of all this stuff, just like everybody else. So, I mean, that's I said it's a constant battle. You know, because media has just gotten just outrageous. He's the greatest player playing our game right now, but even seeing somebody question, like, Bron's body of work, like my body of work, KD's body of work.
Bro, no disrespect, but you're not on the level of Bron or KD. That's why I state when I do these superstar rankings, it's LeBron, it's KD, it's Steph, it's Kawhi, and then it's everybody else when it comes to their quote-unquote body of work. I'm just going by body of work. I'm not going by talent. I'm not going by skill set. Just by body of work combined with skill set. When I say body of work, I mean regular season and postseason. It's LeBron, it's KD, it's Steph, and it's Kawhi. And then you move on to the next level. And Kyrie will be on that next level because of his accomplishments in the playoffs. But he's in there in that mix with Giannis and Anthony Davis and Joel Embiid and Russell Westbrook, James Harden. And James Harden he'd be like right there beneath that first level because of many of the things that he's been able to do in the playoffs. It's just that James has fallen short of the championship round. But Kyrie has yet to lead his team to multiple conference final appearances like James Harden has done. Fortunately for him, he's been able to win a championship alongside LeBron James. And their convention was closer to a partnership than it was a certified alpha and then second in command, but it was still an alpha and a second in command. It's just that at certain points, it resembled a partnership because LeBron would defer to Kyrie, especially in pivotal or clutch shooting situations. But once again, just to get back to the point, for Kyrie to compare his body of work to LeBron James, I mean, it's a big joke.
Work and, the team's success falls on the best player. And whether call it fair or unfair, but nobody should ever question what type of winner those guys are.
Bro, I have news for you. The media is going to question you your whole life. People are going to question you your whole life. It does not matter how successful you are. People are going to question you your whole life.
You know what I mean? What type of winner I am, or
what type of winner you are, bro. Before LeBron James came back to Cleveland, you never won shit. There's a great audio in one of the first games that Kyrie played with LeBron in the regular season. I believe they were in Chicago, and the crowd was real loud. And Kyrie looks over at Mike Miller and he says, Is this what the environment's like in the playoffs? Mike Miller looks at him and just shakes his head like, dude, you have no idea. I mean, that was just, 4.5 years ago. So, I mean, come on, man.
Or whether or not I had the team in first mentality. It's like nobody wants it to be solely about them.
Well, brother, you made it solely about you when you decided that you were going to involve LeBron James in a very elaborate plot to shame your teammates into viewing you how they view LeBron James. And I told you, brothers, this in that last batch of videos, that's what that whole situation was about. Kyrie wants his teammates to view him like how they view LeBron James. And now this confirms it, because now he's trying to compare his quote-unquote body of work to LeBron and KD. And no, sir, no.
Here's the thing, the Celtics have struggled in their 6 games since the All-Star break. At just 1-5, Boston is tied with Dallas for the league's worst record since the break. Their NBA worst three-point percentage has brought down their offensive efficiency considerably. Boston, though, has kept it together on defense, but as you can see, it has a ways to go on offense. For more, let's get you back to First Take.
Just like none of us predicted it. All right, so Kyrie hasn't been shying away from the mic lately, in better spirits there yesterday, but clearly detached.
Slightly better spirits.
Detached and disengaged, that's what the reports have been. Max,
Yep.
Do you have a problem with his comments?
Yeah, big problem, actually. Kyrie, you wanted your own team.
Right, but the real reason why you have a big problem is because he compared himself to your boy LeBron.
You got it. And by the way, early on I said, boy, you proved me wrong. I thought you were just an offensive weapon. But you got that something that Kobe, or by the way, I'm still not even writing him off this year, in this playoff.
Agreed. Once again, in my view, the Boston Celtics have the highest ceiling. They also have the lowest floor. I could see them losing in the first round to Indiana. I could see them at their very, very best, even defeating whoever comes out of the Western Conference.
Playoffs, but like Kobe, or I mentioned Tom Brady and Derek Jeter, the kind of guy might mess up under pressure. Now it's going to overtime, but damn, he's going to get a second chance. You know what he's going to do. He's going to kill you. You're that type of dude, a winner like that, a champion. But to say we shouldn't question whether you can lead successfully?
Yeah, that's just silly. Michael Jordan got questioned, especially like the previous 2 or 3 years before he was finally able to get over the hump and win his first championship. Everybody gets questioned.
Of course, that's what these games are. This script isn't written. You write the script. Yes, it's a team sport, but that's the point of being a leader on a team.
Yep.
How often do, mid-season interviews, national interviews that you've sat down for, work when that leader airs the dirty laundry and throws young players under the bus? How often does that work? Because it certainly backfired in this case.
Absolutely. And it almost never works. A lot of these young guys today, you got to prove it to them on the floor. All Kyrie had to do was bust their ass in practice, and when you get out there on the floor, you're Kyrie Irving. They're paying you all this money. They're not going to bench you for Terry Rozier. You don't have to try to play all these games and try to make these guys, fall in line under you, because you've never led a team to a championship. That's the bottom line. So you trying to convince them that you were even 1A to LeBron James, they're never going to buy that, man. They're just not going to buy it. What you were in Cleveland was a great weapon. You have to prove yourself in Boston. And you would have done yourself a far greater service if you'd have just kept your nose to the grindstone, gone out there on the floor, and said to yourself, I'm not even going to average 20 points a game this year. My goal is to average 11, maybe even 12 assists and lead the league in assists. and get my teammates involved and make sure that I pick them up when they're down, as opposed to trying to be a 6'2" Kobe Bryant and take over every game down the stretch and all that other stuff. And you still have time to do that.
I know you're searching for answers. You're actually playing very well. It's other players on the team that aren't, but you got to get everyone on the same page. That's part of the leader's responsibility.
Agreed.
And if it's not working, we're going to say it's not working. And I got news, Stephen A. This Celtics team went to the conference finals last year without Kyrie or Gordon Hayward. I mentioned it was a mistake not to trade Kyrie at the deadline because you're not going to get anything for him. But you know, I've been thinking about it. Without Kyrie, they play very well. And Gordon Hayward...
Without Kyrie, they've beaten a lot of bad teams. That's what they've done. Without Kyrie, they have no chance of winning the championship. People are going to keep trying to push this notion that they're a better team without Kyrie Irving. I think that they're a happier team without Kyrie Irving. There's a very, very big difference. Sometimes we put happiness over success. Sometimes happiness is a part of success. But often people, they can get so caught up or enraptured by the potential of their own self-aggrandizement that they put the cart before the horse. So let's not mistake the Celtics going 9-2 or 10-2 in a couple of games against the Cleveland Cavaliers and the Knicks and a fortunate win against Sacramento with them being a better team without Kyrie Irving. They will not defeat the Toronto Raptors without Kyrie. They will not defeat the Milwaukee Bucks without Kyrie. There's no way.
Should recover eventually from this injury. Look what happened with Paul George. He got better than ever. If Gordon Hayward becomes most of what he used to be or what he used to be, and he's playing the 3 and Jaylen Brown continues to ascend now, and he's playing the 2 and Tatum's at the 4 and Horford's at the 5 and Rozier and Smart, these guys are at the 1, why can't the Celtics win a championship with this group without Kyrie? Because that could happen.
No, it could not. It couldn't happen last year, and it wouldn't happen this year. The East is so much better this year. They would not beat Milwaukee without Kyrie Irving.
So Kyrie, these are the questions we ask.
Keep in mind, that series last year went 7 games, and that was before they had Coach Bud.
And the opinions that we have, that's part of the business. That's part of having your own team. Stephen A., he didn't get dealt to the Atlanta Hawks, to the Orlando Magic. He got dealt to the basketball crazy Boston Celtics with a crew. He got dealt to a place with a crew and got a great young coach and all that. How much more does he want? So if we notice the team is functioning worse with him than without him, whatever my opinion might be, Kyrie's a killer, he's a winner, all these things, we're going to say what we see. We're going to ask him questions about the way he's leading. Of course we are. That's the job, to ask questions.
Agreed. Now go have a drink so you can calm your ass down.
Well, first of all, I think you're wrong on a couple of fronts. Not with talking about how he has to be a better leader, because you're absolutely right. The greatness of Kyrie Irving as a player is somewhat stained and sullied by his deficiencies as a leader. He's still learning on the job as we speak.
It could be that he's learning on the job, or it could be that he just does not have that leadership DNA in him. He'd like to, but maybe he just does not have it. It's truly a gift to be able to galvanize people to want to follow you.
Speak. So nobody's about to deny that there. Nobody wants to hear a young black man who's elite at his craft, who's rich and famous and a champion, complaining about life. In that regard, he's got to shut up, because ain't nobody trying to hear that nonsense. That much I will give you. But when you break down the basketball analysis, let's make sure we pay attention to a couple of things. And this is where I disagree with you. Number one, you said he went to a crew. That's not necessarily true. They became a crew, but when he arrived, that wasn't necessarily the case. You didn't know what Jason Tatum was going to be. You saw that Jaylen Brown had a little bit of potential. Nobody was thinking about Terry Rozier. Marcus Smart was some kid out of Oklahoma State that some people said, you know what, coming out of Oklahoma State, he's tough, he's defensive-minded and what have you, but he ain't going to knock anybody's socks off. Al Horford was a serviceable to decent big man in Atlanta that people were shocked. Ended up in Boston and felt somewhat overpaid. That's what Kyrie Irving went to. What? And then
Yes, that's true. Everything that Steve has said here is true. Max Kellerman is trying to build up Boston like they're the Golden State Warriors or something like that. What they are is a team who fits very well together. They fit very well together in that system. but there's a reason why they had so much trouble scoring in the playoffs last year.
Excuse me. That's what he went to. That's what happened. Excuse me. I said it. I mean, go back and read the reports. That's what everybody was saying.
No, that's not what everybody was saying.
Yes, it was. Yes, it was. Just go back to what they were saying.
Horford was a decent, serviceable big man.
I let you speak. I got to listen to your nonsense talking basketball. I'm almost allergic to it. I let you speak. I didn't say a word. I sat back and I listened. Now you listen. Here's the deal. You don't want to accept the damage that the Gordon Hayward situation did to the Boston Celtics. Nobody wants to talk about that because it makes everybody uncomfortable. It makes me uncomfortable talking about it. You know?
No, it doesn't. Because if it did, you wouldn't talk about it. But I agree with you. I've said a very long time ago that the Gordon Hayward situation is the reason why they've struggled so much. Because he was the only true change or the real difference from last season. People forget they had like a 16-game winning streak early on last season with Kyrie at the helm.
You know why it makes me uncomfortable? Because I think Gordon Hayward is a very good guy. I think he's a big-time talent coming out of Utah.
He's a very good player. Big-time talent, not quite sure about that one, but he's a very good player when he's fully healthy.
The thing that I'm saying about Gordon Hayward, that was a really, really nasty injury. He had no business coming back as soon as he did, let alone being in the starting lineup. When they decided to do that, it compromised Tatum, it compromised Brown, it compromised Kyrie.
Agreed.
It compromised Terry Rozier, it compromised everybody. And then
hell, it even compromised Marcus Morris.
Then here's the biggest thing.
Stephen A., are you looking at the screen? The numbers are almost the same with him on and off the court.
Listen to Gordon Hayward. Watch the film. And oh, by the way, talk to a few players and see what they say about him. Go inside to a locker room or talk to opponents that have competed against Gordon Hayward who found themselves feeling sorry for him because they know he's not the same player.
And beyond that, you cannot always just look at the numbers because what Max Kellerman has to understand is that when there's a psychological effect on a team that's brought there by being around a certain player who they feel like is getting unjustly treated in a positive way, unjustly treated, meaning he's been given more liberties than he deserves, that's going to affect them as a unit even when he's off the floor. Because if you're a Jaylen Brown and you believe that Gordon Hayward is taking your minutes and you were playing 25 to 27 minutes a game before and now you're playing 18 minutes or 15 minutes a game, when you are on the floor, you're less likely to play with the level of verve and spirit that you had before Gordon Hayward took your minutes. So you just can't look at the minutes or the stats like that.
Yeah, we ain't listening to just the numbers like you do.
Agreed.
We're watching, and I'm telling you, he's not the same player. Not that he will be, because I think the future's bright. But this year, and this is the point,
for me to
and this is the point that I'm trying to make. This is the point that I'm. Listen, man. Look, you know what? I'm gonna be nice, because I can eat you alive, but I'm gonna be nice.
Eat me alive. You're about to lose every single word out of your mouth is wrong. I'm gonna demonstrate in a second.
Since you think people are interested in saying hearing what you have to say, go ahead and speak there. Because I was getting ready to get to the point about psychologically what it's done and why those players have a problem. But you don't want to address that. You don't want to address the fact that they went out of their way to look out for Gordon Hayward. And that is what has served to divide this team, not Kyrie Irving.
Well, it's very obvious that Brad Stevens was given orders from Danny Ainge to make sure that Gordon Hayward got playing time because they paid him so much money. They're not just going to let him sit on the bench.
Well, the numbers just...
Plus, they have to showcase Gordon Hayward in case they could package him for a trade. Now, I thought that they might be able to package him in a trade for Anthony Davis, but the NBA has a rule that states that they would not be able to trade for Anthony Davis during the season. But still, you want to play Gordon Hayward as much as possible so that even off season, after this year is over, maybe you could package him for a trade and trade him for somebody. Who knows? Either way, I believe that that's the method to Danny Ainge and Brad Stevens' madness.
Just indicated that they're slightly worse with Gordon Hayward on the floor as off, but they're much worse with Kyrie on the floor than off. Like, so to say it's Gordon Hayward issue it may have contributed something. Those are the two pieces they had to integrate into the team or reintegrate. But to pin it on Gordon Hayward, look, Gordon Hayward's injury was a lot like Paul George's, probably worse. And it took Paul George about a year to come back to full strength. I expect the same thing with Gordon Hayward, who was never quite as good as Paul George in the first place, but could return to all-star form. I think that's reasonable.
Gordon Hayward was a couple levels below Paul George, even before Paul George was injured, I think that Paul George is a better player now than he was even at his peak before he was hurt. But Gordon Hayward was at least a couple levels below Paul George.
And it's going to take him about a season to get back. Whether or not it was wise to insert him in the starting lineup. The idea that Horford was a serviceable big man, decent to serviceable big man.
He's above average.
Horford was properly considered the very next thing to an elite big man, which is why he got a max contract. That's why. Even if some thought he was...
In this era, Horford is a second level or second tier big man.
It was overpaid. It wasn't by much. Horford was, what, a top five in the NBA? A decent to serviceable player? Why do you think Jason Tatum went third overall in the draft? Because no one saw that he was going to be good? Or because many people thought he would be very good? Why did Jaylen Brown go third in the draft? Even before they had Kyrie Irving, they had Isaiah Thomas, who was on the fringe of the MVP conversation that season. Marcus Smart was the 6th overall pick in the draft and considered a very solid and ascending player. Yes, they had a crew in Boston when Kyrie was traded there. But at any...
Well, they had a collection of very good young talent that they hoped the best for. That's what they had. But to say that they had a crew, no. A crew is what you have out there in Golden State.
At any rate, they're certainly considered a crew heading into this season.
I would agree with that.
They just went to the conference finals. Tatum was considered a near future franchise type of scorer. Jaylen Brown, a potential all-star. Hayward, a former all-star who was going to get healthy over the next year or so. Al Horford just outplayed Embiid in the playoffs, also an all-star caliber player. What are you talking about? They weren't crew deep.
He trying to play you, Steve. Don't take that.
They were crew deep.
Okay, first of all, Jason Tatum was a rookie. I'm not saying they couldn't play. I'm saying they were unproven. Jaylen Brown had completed his first year. Jason Tatum was...
And let me say this about Jaylen Brown. Jaylen Brown was terrible in his first season. Like, there was some thoughts that, like, this guy can't make a jump shot at all. So I understand the point that Stephen A is trying to make. He's allowing himself to become frustrated by Max Kellerman, who's trying to use his Spock logic on Stephen A. Al Horford, I agree, is a serviceable center. I would say that he's pretty good in this era. He can make a few all-star teams, but Al Horford is, he's like a 14-10 guy. That's what he is. Who's going to play very good defense.
Was a rookie. Al Horford was addicted to getting swept by LeBron in the playoffs.
He was also addicted to having his pectoral muscles torn because of those performance-enhancing drugs that he was using, allegedly.
Okay, so when you looked at Kyrie Irving arriving, it wasn't that he arrived to a crew. It's that when he arrived, because he's Kyrie, you thought they had a crew because he's Kyrie Irving. That's number one. But number two, it's not wrong, but it's okay. I don't expect you to know. The point that I want to get to, the point that I want to focus on, is what I'm saying about Gordon Hayward. Because what you're missing is that the players have been incredibly offended because even though they like him a great deal, because he's a good guy, they knew that based on his health, not his game, based strictly on his health, he did not deserve to be in that position, and they asked themselves, would it have been done for any of them? Danny Ainge, would it have been done for any of them? Brad Stevens.
Well, Stephen A. Smith, bring it home. Are you saying that the players were trying to allege a racial element when it comes to why Gordon Hayward was given quote-unquote preferential treatment? Is that what you're trying to say? Because if that is what you're trying to say, go ahead on and say it, brother, please. Say it with your chest.
Why are you doing it for him? And then Danny Ainge comes on the air, whatever station he was on, and says that Brad Stevens is the least to blame. Brad Stevens is an exceptional coach. This has not been an exceptional year. We all know that. Why is that? Because of the decision, whether it's Danny Ainge or him, as it pertains to Gordon Hayward in Boston. I got to spell this out. I mean, you trying to tell me that has no effect?
There's a very easy way.
You think numbers tell that story?
Here are numbers that matter.
Does numbers tell that story?
Yeah.
Yes or no?
Yes, they do. There's a simple way. Way to verify it. Let's look at how the team performs when Gordon is on the floor and off the floor versus the way the team performs when Kyrie is on and off the floor.
Right, but that does not really disprove Stephen A's point. All it really proves is that the team does not like playing with Kyrie or Gordon Hayward. It doesn't mean that Gordon Hayward is not the problem. It means that he's just another problem. But he's definitely a problem. Kyrie made himself more of a problem this season.
And you will get your answer. Whatever you're hearing, whatever people's opinions are, there's a fact of the matter about the way the team is functioning. They're a little bit worse with Gordon Hayward than without. Do we have the Kyrie graphic, guys?
It's coming up right now. We're getting it for you, Max.
Right, okay. And by the way, we don't have the record up there. They are substantially worse with Kyrie than without. And look at the record. Now,
well, we'd also have to gauge or evaluate the winning percentage of the teams that they face without Kyrie as opposed to with Kyrie. But we're not going to let context get in the way of a good stat narrative.
Now, that doesn't mean in the playoffs I want Gordon Hayward on the floor instead of Kyrie Irving. Kyrie Irving's a near MVP level player. It's just the...
Not quite, but I understand where you're getting at. Basically, Max is assessing Kyrie similar to my assessment, that being that he's on that second tier.
Just the fact of how each is affecting team chemistry at the moment. To argue that Hayward is more disruptive to team chemistry because Jaylen Brown was in his feelings early in the season is ridiculous based on the outcomes since Kyrie and Hayward.
I'm sorry, who said Jaylen Brown? Who said Jaylen Brown? I gave you a collection of individuals. I'm talking about a team that has been fragmented. I gave you the reasons why. Numbers don't always tell that story, Max. There are plenty of situations where people normally would achieve under more ideal circumstances, and the level of frustration, the feelings of unfairness and beyond, as wrong as they may be, to let that affect their game, the fact of the matter is it does. Based on what you're saying, just look at the numbers, and that's all we need to know. And I'm saying to you, no, that's not true.
I have heard the same things, and I don't even disagree.
Really? Then why haven't you ever mentioned it? You've never mentioned it on this show.
And I also don't disagree that Gordon Hayward's insertion to the lineup hurt some feelings and also took some minutes away from ascending forward.
I asked you a question.
You are making that.
How come you've never mentioned it? How come you never mentioned it?
Because that's the way this show works. I'm arguing one side, you're arguing the other. You want me to make...
Look at Stephen A. face. Steve, the reason why he never mentioned is very, very simple. It won't fit into his narrative. He's had an issue with Kyrie ever since Kyrie made him look silly a couple of years ago, right before the 2017-2018 season. So he would rather concentrate on the Kyrie aspect than the Gordon Hayward aspect. I think that he views the Gordon Hayward aspect as being just some belly aching from some black players on the team who don't understand that Gordon Hayward is going to get playing time according to how much money he's getting paid. So in his mind, it's not that big a deal. I believe that Max Kellerman believes that the Kyrie Irving storyline is a much bigger deal because Kyrie styles himself as the leader. Gordon Hayward does not. So, in my view, that's why he's never brought it up.
You want me to make your argument?
Since when?
Yeah, since always. So I need to explain that to you. So the fact of the matter is, when you say numbers don't tell the story, in fact, numbers are, in this case, records of events. So what you're saying is people are saying this, Gordon Hayward had that effect on morale. I'm not even arguing against that. I'm saying ultimately we can test to see, however people were feeling, what the actual effect was.
Right, but there's something called context, Max Kellerman. Out of those 11 games where the Celtics went 9-2, how many of those games was Kyrie purposefully sat because the team that they were going against was not a real threat?
And what the effect is with Kyrie. And however people were feeling, when Gordon Hayward plays, they're a little worse than when he doesn't this year on the whole. But when Kyrie Irving, who's the best player on the team, plays, they're significantly worse when he's on the floor. So that can only be attributed to chemistry. How can you then pin it on Gordon Hayward?
Because of what I explained. And the fact that they, just recently, Max, they were 15, 16 games over 500 until a week ago. It was not like they were losing. And they had beaten Toronto. They had games come down to the wire against Milwaukee. They had beaten Philadelphia. They had gone neck to neck against Golden State. Houston, the list goes on and on. They weren't losing games.
And what was the change?
Okay, guys.
What are you talking about? What was the change?
What was the change after the All-Star break? Did someone go on TV and mention how young players don't get it, etc., etc.?
That's fair.
But that's what I'm arguing.
That's
That's his leadership. That's his attempt at leadership. I'm not even saying he's not trying to be a good leader. I'm saying what he's doing isn't working. Since then, they just can't win.
I don't disagree with.
Well, look, that actually occurred before the All-Star break, those issues with Kyrie. But beyond that, I just think that that the team is out on Kyrie. I think many of their younger players are out on Kyrie. So it's going to be very difficult for Kyrie to re-earn the trust of many of their younger stars, or younger players, I should say. And right now, he's created this image around himself, or this aura around himself, where he's not someone who's particularly approachable from a media standpoint. So I'm not sure how he's going to make him possibly signing with the New York Knicks as something that can be constructive. I just don't see that. So Kyrie's kind of pinning himself into a bad situation.
Agree with that point.
Hey guys, it's me, Switzerland. Peace, bringing levity.
But anyway, that's basically it on that. We'll see how things go with Kyrie in the offseason. He does need to return back to a certain sense of reality, because no, he is not on LeBron or KD's level. So peace.